Hey guys, it's Drew again. About a month and a half ago or so, I put out a video asking for some help talking about the channel name, The Drew. It talks about where I got the name from and how the whole channel came about with some help from some friends and some other stuff going on. So check that video out if you haven't already. But within there, I thought about renaming my channel, and the reasons behind it were. Um, Anytime I've had people like mention me in another video saying, hey, go check out the channel The Drew or whatever, and people just type in The Drew on YouTube, The Drew Barrymore Show comes up. And nothing wrong with Drew Barrymore, uh, I guess, except she steals my thunder. But the point is that I wanted something that could be more mine, and people mentioned that they had a hard time finding my channel when they typed it in. So I wanted to add something or change it a little bit, and I kind of wanted to keep the moniker The Drew in there. It's sort of something that is now, but I wanted it to describe a little bit more about my channel or who I am as a person or just what this channel is about. And so I asked for suggestions, and I had some really, really great suggestions. I had just some great advice. I had some good comments, and of course, I had a bunch of Weisenheimers, sarcastic or whatever, with some crazy ones too. But you know what? If you're a Weisenheimer, wear it with a badge of honor. But I wrote down a list of a couple of the ones that I really thought were funny or just different or good. And but I probably had a good 30, 40 different suggestions from people, and I really appreciated that. For you guys taking the time to think about it, even if you were just being goofy and putting something funny in. It's what I like about this community. It's what I like about it's just touching and reaching with people that you don't normally talk to. You don't may never even meet in person because we're all over the place, all over the country. But I wanted to name some of the funny ones or some of the different ones. So the first one I have was actually named multiple times, which I think is interesting because I don't know, it's just funny to me. But the Mountain Drew. I had a sharp dressed Drew, which is interesting. Drooby Dooby Doo, which, funny enough, is a nickname that people have actually called me in the past. Um, Whatever. So that's kind of funny. DrewTube. I thought that was great, but a little on the high side of arrogance, so probably not DrewTube. The Drew Plays 2. Thought that was a good one. That's a baseball reference, Ernie Banks, and I thought that was really clever. The Drewsville Suspects. I thought that was funny. Uh, one of my favorite movies. So I just thought that was great. And probably my favorite, I am not the Drew Barrymore Show, but I'm not sure how that would actually help people find my channel, but still I thought it was kind of funny. But then I had some really great ones, and again, too many to list, where people just really try to take in what's about me and what I like to collect and all that. So what I did was, you probably already see the channel name, and I want to explain why I picked it. What I decided upon is to name the channel The Drew A Vintage Legacy. And the reason is a few different things. So I want to kind of explain those to give you an idea. So, a vintage legacy, first of all, what I've noticed within YouTube is when people talk about other channels, so people will mention this person or that person, their channel name. Typically, what they will do very commonly is they will say the person's first name who has that channel, and then the channel name as if it's their last name, as in John Wade Boggs fan, or Mike baseball collector, or Jake Legends Never Die, or Jason Mr. Fisher Bike. And I thought, so with me, I can still keep the name The Drew in there, and people could then say, if they're commenting or talking about me, and say, Drew, a vintage legacy, and it just sort of flows, in my opinion. So that was one thing, is to kind of get that in there so people can maybe start using that a little bit. And then the second reason is vintage, the word vintage. So obviously, I am a vintage collector. I do have some, and I'm not going to really call it, I'll call it modern, but it's not all ultra modern. I have the Griffies that I collected all through the 90s and early 2000s. I don't typically pick up anything. I don't bust wax. I don't pop packs, any of that kind of stuff. That was all stuff I had done in the past, and part of the legacy that I have sort of built over all these years. But I'm definitely a vintage guy. I collect vintage stuff. I like vintage stuff. I have more. I'm more in touch with that vintage community, and I just love the stuff. There was a portion where I was a pre-war type collector, So I have some experience with that, even though I don't have that collection really anymore. And then I have that the golden era, or whatever you want to call it, with the 40s, 50s, 60s, and into the 70s. And I really love that stuff. I have my favorite sets and my favorite players and that kind of thing. So that's the word vintage. It kind of shows if people are looking for channels or looking for anything, they can say vintage. I know what Drew likes, and kind of get a little bit in there. So that's second. But the last thing is the word legacy. And the reason I wanted to use the word legacy is it refers back to one of my earliest videos, which I talked about a family legacy. And I told a story in there about something with my grandmother. If you've not watched it, go watch it. It's a funny video. It's a great story, and it's a funny story. Just kind of sit through my rambling like you're doing now. So legacy is a word that we use, and we kind of have our own meaning behind it. And I had a lot of people say, well, you tell a lot of stories about your collection. You tell stories about how you collect and what you collect and where you got the things from. Why not use the word story? And I really think that's a good thought. But a story is it's a moment in time. A story is something where I got this card and this is how I got it, or I remember I was with that person, and you tell a story. We all tell stories. Stories are a big part of this thing. It's one of the reasons we connect together. But to me, when I'm telling about my collection, when I am recounting all those tales of different cards and different sets and different players and different experiences and different people I've met through along the way, all that grouped together, there are all stories, but they all become the legacy of what my collection is. And where that legacy, it's not about me anymore and my collection, it's about the community that helped me get here. I've told stories about my wife, who has been super, super supportive with different things that she has gotten for me and given to me, and just allowed me to go do, whether it was trips or whatever, and in times with friends. It's about, I told stories with my son, was on a video, and he came in. He's not a baseball fan, he's not a baseball collector, but there's still something that we share within my collection. I've told a story about my grandmother, telling that great story about Babe Ruth way back. I've told stories about my dad. I had a friend, Alan, one of my best friends in the world, came when I first started and did some videos when he was visiting in town. All those people, and you guys that I mentioned these names from, you guys told me what you thought. You connected with me for whatever reason. It was a connection with baseball. It was a connection with me. I've had a number of people where I'm now, I consider them my friends. People like Jake and Jared and Jason and Scott and just different people. Don, I've had great conversations with Don Field of Dreams. See? Don Field of Dreams, last name. Anyway, so those people, they are all part of the legacy of my collection. The reason that I'm on YouTube is not to just entertain people. It's not just to show off. It's just to document stuff. And then someday, maybe when I'm gone, my kids or my grandkids can look back and they can be like, well, why did he have this? And where did this come from? And it's all part of that legacy of what me being a baseball collector and a baseball fan and a baseball history fan is. So that's why I'm doing it. So the Drew, a vintage legacy, that's what I'm sticking with. Tell me what you think. Let me know, did you like it? Should I go on with the Mountain Drew? Sorry, Adam, you were one of the people that said that, but and I didn't go with it. But anyway, I do appreciate the support. I appreciate the community. I appreciate the shout outs I've been getting. I really do. And while I don't have a ton of subscribers, it's not about growth. It's about connections. And I just really appreciate all the people that have come alongside me to help me make my collection what it is, which is not just a collection of stories, but it's actually my legacy. Anyway, I appreciate the time you guys gave me. Until next time, you guys be good.